What's up, guys? Tristian Clunis here, and for today we are doing a very, very special episode. Today we're going to be specifically talking about new construction / pre-construction condos 101. It's a masterclass, folks. I actually have Jeff Slightham, which is the big dog when it comes to new construction. We're going to keep this as tight and sweet for you as possible. And I can't wait, man.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And Jeff is actually the expert when it comes to new construction.
I appreciate
so we have
that.
the
Thank
right
you.
person on deck.
I hope so.
Let's get it.
So.
You
We'll
ready to
see.
go?
Well, I'm ready to go. Let's
Awesome.
do it.
So let's get started.
What do you got for me? What do you got for me?
First things first, what is pre-con? Everybody talks about pre-con, new construction. What is that?
You know what? Not enough people ask that question because when you put it out there, I'm like, well, what does that mean? Right? So what we want to talk about is pre-con is the new development, those big high-rise, those cranes you see going up all over the city, all new things real estate and across the GTA. That is pre-con, pre-development, pre-livability, pre-people living there, to keep it that simple,
Awesome.
right? So that's where you find all these great sites. And when you talk pre-con, in Canada anyways, developers will pre-sale the product. They will not build the product until a certain percentage of that product is sold. So with condominiums that you see, rule of thumb for development is about 80%. So 80% of the units have to be sold. Technically speaking, it's 80% of the total livable square footage is required to be sold. So if a good chunk of larger units are sold in the building versus smaller units, the faster the developer is able to get to that 80% mark. And why do they need to get to that 80% mark? Is to get their financing from their banks, from their lenders, et cetera, so they can actually take that money and build the project.
Awesome. So there's a big difference between resale, like buying a resale condo from MLS or whatever site that you're looking on, and buying pre-con.
100%.
You're kind of buying it from the floor plan. You're buying
You got
it
it.
from
And the only real reason to get educated on these things is to talk to
a realtor.
A realtor, hey, because with the more developments that are happening, the developers have really dove in and understand the value of a realtor in these situations, where it's up to the realtor really to pitch these projects. I hate, don't usually like that word, but to really present these projects to their clients so they can, again, understand it, whether or not it's a good investment on it. And the realtor, when they're going to their clients, the realtor wants to share only the best of what is available and why it's the best.
Nice.
And
awesome.
so, you know, as realtors, we get to pick and choose a lot of the great stuff that's going up around the city.
That's amazing. And remember, folks, you're buying this from, as I said, the floor plan. So your building is not going to necessarily be built right away. It's going to take about 3, 4, 5 years out.
You're seeing about 5 years now.
5 years
the
on
rule
average?
of thumb used to be 4 years. It's probably taking 5 years now. Just the sheer demand, as we all know, costs have gone up dramatically, and with new construction, material costs have gone up, and labor costs have gone up. So with supply channels shrinking, you're seeing now it's tougher for these developers to get concrete, to get drywall. There was a shortage on concrete, so developers are scrambling trying to find concrete. All these buildings are built from concrete, so if you're running out of it, you know it's only going to take that much longer to finish the project.
And why would somebody buy in Toronto pre-construction? Like what's the difference?
Great question. I think Toronto has been,
or GTA. So Toronto, we're talking about the greater Toronto area, including Hamilton and those places.
These places around the area of the Greater Toronto, the Golden Horseshoe, as they call it.
Yes.
You know, has been in such in high demand for so long. It is, the rest of Canada. I hate when we say this, right? But it is really the business mecca of this great country we live in, and so it's a huge driver of immigration. So when new Canadians arrive in Canada, they want to come to these vast business centers where there's the odds of finding a job and a really good job are that much greater. Where if you're in smaller communities that doesn't have the job market that the GTA has, well, that's not as attractive. So, and everybody needs a roof over their heads.
Pretty much.
And so with the new construction that we've seen, the new development of condominiums that we've seen across this whole vast area, it's funny enough, has provided the rental pool for a lot of new Canadian students, just new at graduating out of university and colleges. It's providing homes for people, rental product for lots of people that want to live in the Greater Toronto area.
That's awesome.
So without this new construction, there really wouldn't have been ever a rental pool. We would have had an even more housing shortage than what we're already
And
in.
the housing shortage is real.
It is real. Even with the shift in the market right now, I mean, everyone's saying, oh, we're waiting for prices to adjust as interest rates increase.
Right.
Prices are not adjusting as fast as they could. And a large part of that is really, quite frankly, the shortage of available homes for sale.
So guys, even though we see a lot of these cranes, I know when you're driving in Toronto, you see cranes everywhere and you think, who's gonna live in all these homes? We're still short. Every year, we still have like a back order of units that still need to be built because we have such a shortage in our city.
100%. It's interesting. They're predicting now that we'll be probably anywhere from 600,000 to 800,000 new Torontonians by 2030. Right. And we're only delivering 30,000 new homes a year in this area. Right. That's so it's interesting. That's not enough.
Right.
And hence the demand, and hence why we saw that huge appreciation over the last little while. But again, appreciation at the pace we're at the tail end of 2021 and as we rolled into 2022 was the pace at which was, what's the word I'm looking for?
Unsustainable.
Unsustainable. Yeah. Thank you. It was not sustainable. So hence why we're going through the adjustment period as we are right now.
Awesome. So that's what pre-con is, guys. Pre-construction.
We took that deep.
No, but that was awesome. That was great.
Thank you.
So the next part I want to discuss is why. Okay, so how do you win? How does it? If you're an investor, I'm mainly focusing on investors here. Of course, you could buy pre-construction as a principal residence, as your main home, but we're focusing on investors. If you're an investor, why would you buy? How do you win with pre-con?
Great question. You win in the long term.
Nice.
So you'll get a lot of investors that are look to buy and flip quickly. I don't want to dive too much down this path, down this rabbit hole of assignments, or you buy and you have the contract moved before it's finished, you sell that contract. That's not where you win in real estate.
Right.
I've seen there is some short-term gains in that aspect. If there's some short-term appreciation, that can be a short-term win. But the real long wins, the real big wins, are when you own the asset for a really long time.
Buy and hold.
Buy and hold.
Yeah.
You put a tenant in there. The tenant is paying a good chunk of that mortgage for you. And over the 20 or 25 years of ownership, you have that, again, the tenant paying off the debt. And in 25 years, you have an asset that's paid for by somebody else.
Right.
And that's where you really win.
And with pre-construction, you can actually, it's almost like a forced savings plan in a way.
It is,
right?
100%.
Because you're not necessarily needed. Normally, when you're an investor and you're looking to buy a property, if you do resale, you're going to need the 20%
100%
down payment right away. With pre-construction,
that's another big win, right?
Yeah.
So, and why there's such demand for it is the deposit structure. You don't need that 20% right away.
Right.
The real big promo piece now that you're hearing a lot of developers put in, shout out to the marketplace, is it's 5% a year in terms of the deposit structure.
So 5% now, this year, then another
5% next year.
Right.
You got it. Now, they say it's every year. In most cases, developers will need that 10%
within the first year. Usually.
Within the first year.
Or within 12 months, I should say.
Exactly.
Yeah, not within the first year. So within 12 months.
You need that 10% down. Yeah. You need that 10%.
So guys, so if you sign that agreement, 12 months out, just prepare to be spending around or to be putting out as an investment at least 10%.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Awesome. Any other reasons?
That's great. That's great. Great questions. Yeah. The other big, again, what's nice is too, you have the longevity of that deposit structure. So you will not get, you don't take ownership of it until that's good. That was smooth. You don't take ownership for 4 to 5 years, right? So as long as the market continues down the path that we're in right now, even though prices are adjusting slightly, you're not seeing prices on new construction, condominiums and homes depreciating.
Right.
As costs and as material costs and labor costs have not adjusted yet. Now we don't see them adjusting to a certain extent where you're going to see prices start to depreciate on the new construction side. So the goal,
almost like a forced appreciation.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, not forced, but I mean, prices may maintain flat.
Right.
Or by the time you finish, when you buy new construction these days, you are buying future value. So with the goal of it appreciating above and beyond what you've paid for it by the time you take possession.
Awesome. And just another question, in terms of with the prices that you're paying right now, when you're buying new construction,
Yes.
obviously it's not going to be built until 5 years from now, but
Yes.
you're paying for somewhat today's prices. I know the builders have made some adjustments there. They're now trying to get smart with it. But
that's the goal. I mean, you're seeing resale prices, say in the downtown Toronto right now, around $1,200 a foot. New construction pricing, you're going to pay anywhere. If you're downtown core, you're going to pay $1,700 a square foot. As you move uptown, you're going to be around that $1,500 per square foot range. So again, it becomes down to affordability. You can buy out in Hamilton, right, for $1,000 to $1,200 a square foot.
Right.
So it really depends on where you want to be and what your price range is.
And guys, just keep in mind, this is summer. We're right now in August 2022. If you're watching this and it's a year out or so, then obviously the prices have adjusted.
Of course.
Yes,
of course.
Most likely have gone up, if anything. Awesome.
That's it.
So those are the ways you win, obviously, in new construction. And we also discussed why you would buy pre-construction. I want to know what the process is like. So let's say now I'm sold. I want to buy a pre-con. What is that process like? What are the things that you should be looking for? I know for one, location is key when you're looking
100%,
to buy new construction.
Yeah. First thing first, you want to talk to Tristan. You want to talk to Tristan. He's going to tell you where to be.
Great plug.
Where to, of course, right? You got it, right? This is where you've got to be.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell them what the prime, obvious location when it comes to real estate. I think everybody's heard this forever, right? Where it's location.
Yep.
There are some great opportunities all across the city, whether you're along the water, north, east, and west, and it's going to come down to price point. Right. So as we touched on a little earlier, if your price point, if you're in a lower price range, there's still some great opportunities out for you. You're just going to look far outside of the center core or of the city. So in terms of the process itself, my rule of thumb is you're going to want to make sure you have at least 5% liquid cash ready to go of that price in that price range. Right. So if you're going to be putting down, if it's a $600,000 unit, right, you're going to want to make sure you're going to want to have that $30,000 ready to go in your pocket.
And probably another 5% before
another 5% before the month.
months.
So if you have that 10% ready to go, that's even better.
Awesome.
In most cases as well, you're going to need to have at least $5,000 to $10,000 ready to go. Developers will not send a contract out for signing in most cases now until they have that deposit from your client.
Guys, so that's a key point when it comes to your down payment. Definitely have at least 5% ready to rock, and then another 5% within that 12 months.
I'd say within the next 6 months.
Within the next 6 months. So Jeff says within the next 6 months.
You want to be ahead of it, right? You don't want to be
conservative.
And
exactly. Awesome. Yeah. And then also when it comes to location, I know that, for example, and this kind of ties into location and just also mainly location.
Yeah.
Master plan community.
Yes. That's a big buzzword.
It is huge right now.
Yeah, it is. It is when in the new construction.
Why is that so important?
Great question, because in master plan communities, you look at what a lot of clients look into is that I want to be in the first building, because you assume the next building will only be more expensive than the first building that was released in that community.
That's where the forced appreciation comes in.
It is because as costs costs for these developers are only go up. Their margins are getting slimmer and slimmer.
Right.
So they look to increase prices because labor costs are only going up, material costs have continued to go up. So prices, of course, naturally have to increase in time. So a lot of clients like to get into that first building.
Right. So, and just to let you know, when you're working with me and working with my team, first access is key. That's what we get. We get first access here. First access, allocations, VIP, and we're also platinum agents. So we get first access. We're going to get the bottom first prices.
At any master plan community, we're going to get you into that first building,
which is awesome. And you can clearly see why it's so important, because the builder is looking to make money as well. So they're going to give you first phase, a certain price, and then they're hoping to increase it a little bit more in the second phase.
Exactly, the second phase, third phase, fourth phase, and so forth.
Yeah. Now, another thing I want to mention when it comes to location is transit. Like I was listening to a study that was done from Harvard years ago that you want to be within 500, ideally, obviously not every project is like that, but to be within 500 meters from a transit, whether it's GO Transit or a subway station or something along those lines.
Subway, obviously, in GO Transit plays heavily into that.
I think a lot of renting it out and all that.
I think at the same time, though, when you're looking at, I know just recently some recently released product, you have to have the vision, of course, as well, and that's what's tough for anybody who's in it, like we are. And when we're looking at so many projects, on a weekly basis, daily basis, call it. there's just you have to have that vision when you're looking at a master plan community, and really there's absolutely nothing there, and you're going to go,
you're just seeing a field.
Okay, yeah, you're like, okay, I'm going to put a client here. There's there's no grocery store. There's kind of a bus that kind of rips by here every so often.
Right.
But it's to have that vision to say, I see the change here, and this is exciting, because when this is done and we're getting in at the ground level, oh, baby, we are going to hit a home
because
run.
they also add in, I mean, normally master plan communities will have commercial. They'll have,
100%.
They'll be doing parks, schools in some situations.
Grocery stores, retail, Starbucks, the whole Starbucks effect.
So like 5-10 years from now, when you're looking at it, it's a completely different, it's not just that field, it's completely
100%,
different.
It's completely changed.
Okay, so that's location. So obviously, guys, location is crucial when you're looking at which development or which project you want to get into. Next, I want to talk about is the builder.
Yes.
How important is it to go with like a reputable builder?
That's a great question. I think it is extremely. With at the beginning of the year and the tail end of last year, there just things were selling so quickly. It really, everyone's just like, I just want to get in. I want to get in, and we're looking at projects all over the city.
Right.
But now it's more important than ever with borrowing costs going up, because don't forget, lenders are borrowing money to build a project. So as borrowing costs go up, you want to make sure you're investing in not only the location, but the developer themselves. So you want to make sure it's secure, because a lot of times you're tying up that money for 4 years. Right. And if 2 years later and the builder still hasn't put a shovel in the ground, you're going, all of a sudden you're like, sorry, we're not going to build it. You don't gain any appreciation.
Right. So and I want to clarify that, because I think a lot of people, when it comes to new construction condos, think that your money is gone.
It's not.
It's not gone. So in this situation, when you're doing new construction condos, when you give your money and you give the developer your down payment, that money is actually not given to the builder directly or to the developer. It's held in trust with the lawyer.
With a lawyer,
yes. There's only like a handful of lawyers that handle.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
there's only a handful of very qualified law firms that work with these developers.
Right.
And developers understand the importance of aligning themselves with the best in the business. So they work with the top law firms across the city to give clients the confidence to know that their funds are in good hands.
So the worst case scenario is still bad. It's unfortunate that your money will be kind of sitting and not making any money, no interest, no nothing in that time. If for whatever reason they did not close. But you do not lose your shirt. You don't lose your money. No. You actually get your money back.
And this is why you align yourself with a great developer, which have deep pockets and will inevitably build a project no matter what. Okay,
so perfect. So anything else regarding the builder? I know one of the things that is very important is the fact that they have completed projects. Like
100%.
You don't want to build it that this is their first. You don't want to be, guys, you don't want to be the guinea pig. You don't want to say, hey, I'm the first go around at this. Yeah,
Builder's never done anything before.
You want to ensure that the builder has completed projects. You can look it up online. You can go on their website. You can go, Google will give you everything. But you want to make sure that they have some projects that they've 100%. Done. That they've
and even there's even experienced builders that you want to be cautious with. Right. And make sure that they have completed projects, and make sure they haven't canceled projects.
Right.
Or if they did have to cancel, why did they cancel?
Right.
So there are still some great builders that have had to cancel projects, but as long as you understand, the reasoning behind it, and because if it's a great project in a great location, and they're selling it at a price point that is achievable and will allow them to complete the project, then you feel comfortable moving forward.
Awesome. So that's location, that is the builder. Incentives.
Yes.
Incentives are key.
They are key.
I know for us, when it comes to, as we said, we have first access, but then one of the major things for us is we want to make sure that the incentives are there. Now, what are some of these? I'm just going to kind of touch on it, and you can let me know. You can kind of fire away at what your thoughts are. Right to lease.
Yes.
And occupy.
Yes.
During occupancy.
That is during occupancy.
Yeah,
so there's a couple of quick key dates, and this is important, again, in touching on the process. So you're interested, you move forward, you put your deposit down, the contract is signed. Within that contract, there will be terms referencing the right to lease and some of the promotions that the builder is going to talk about. So the right to lease during occupancy, there are two key dates, the occupancy date and the completion date, where you actually can register a deed against the property and register a mortgage against the property. So that's usually about a 2 to 3 months period once you get occupancy. Literally, the developer hands you your keys and you can move into the unit. And there was a point in time where you weren't permitted to even rent the unit out. They said it had to be rented to a family member, or it had to be you the buyer moving into the unit.
And during the time, I'm guessing you're not paying a mortgage. You're paying.
No,
for,
it's a good
what
point.
are the occupancy
Good question.
fees that you're having?
The fees you're paying are maintenance fees,
Right.
and a portion of the developer's interest payment.
Okay.
So it's a formula, but
Right.
roughly it works out to the to essentially what a mortgage payment would equate to be.
But a little less, I'm guessing.
Slightly less.
Right. So
Slightly
during
less.
this time, especially if you're an investor, this is probably the time when you're going to actually be cash flow positive in that situation.
It is.
Like on
Right
a
at the
grand
beginning.
scale, because you're not necessarily paying a mortgage. Yes, you have fees. Yes, you have monthly fees that are coming out, but it's not a whole mortgage.
No, it's not. It's
Right.
not the full mortgage
Awesome.
payment. Yep.
Perfect. And then another incentive, free assignment.
Free assignment's a big one too.
Why is
so
that
it
important?
alleviates risk. It takes some of the risk out of the purchase. So if obviously 4 to 5 years is a long period of time.
Right.
Anything
can happen.
anything
You
can
can lose your
happen.
job.
So-
You can
exactly.
family member can get
you
sick,
move. You get
move.
relocated
Yeah.
or whatever it might be, and you say, you know what? I want to take whatever cash I have tied up in this piece of real estate and move it to wherever I'm going, or move it into a different aspect of
Right.
my life. And you want it sooner, prior to the completion of the project, you can then assign the unit, and it's more important than ever now. Developers are giving what they used to charge a fee. A lot of them now it is waived, and a lot of times it's just their legal fees.
Legal fees that you have to cover.
Yeah, anywhere from $5 to
And you're pretty much
$1,000.
taking the paperwork and you're selling the paperwork. So if I know that if I'm looking at if it's known that I'm not going to be closing on this property for whatever reason, as you just mentioned,
Yes.
I can say, hey Jeff, you want to buy this condo from me?
You got it.
Some people, they do this as a strategy.
It is,
completely.
100%.
They never plan on closing. For us, we do ask. I think it's very, very important that whenever you're signing that agreement, that you plan to close, even if it's not something that you end up closing on, that you're in a position to close on it.
You have the ability to close. You don't
Correct.
want to put yourself in a position where you're looking to make a quick buck,
Right.
That's not for us. That's not real estate. Is, in my opinion, it's not sexy, but
Right.
it's the long-term game, because that's where you have the huge wins.
Awesome. And then last one that I want to kind of touch on is capped development charges.
Yes.
Why is that important?
Great question. It's more important than ever, as some people have heard already, possibly, development charges in Toronto are going to double.
Right.
So these are charges that the municipality applies to on top of the purchase price.
Nice.
So these costs, these charges don't always all fall on the purchaser. The developer does share in these costs.
Good
So
to know.
these are costs that help build schools in the area. They help build infrastructure to neighborhoods, parks, and all these, like there's park levies and things like that. So it's important that it's nice to know that these charges are capped,
Right.
and whether or not it's a firm cap, or sometimes it can be a bit of a moving target. So this is a lot of these, the increase in development charges are coming into play into 2023, early
Awesome.
2023.
There you have it, guys. So those are the incentives that we look for, and we do our due diligence to make sure that we look for those incentives, which is of course free assignment, capped development charges, and we also look for the right to
Lease.
Right to lease.
Yes.
I was going to say right to assign. I've already said that. Yes. Right to lease. So during occupancy, which is very, very important.
Very
okay,
important.
so those are your incentives. Next, I want to touch on is your due diligence. So let's say you go ahead. We've found a location. It's a reputable builder.
Yes.
We have the incentives in there. We want to go ahead and sign on the dotted line. So you go ahead and sign on the
Sign
dotted
the
line.
contract. It's all done electronically now. So
Perfect.
you'll get a DocuSign or an e-signature contract to be e-signed.
Awesome.
And once that's done,
Within 24 hours, I think you have to provide the deposit.
well, 24 hours or beforehand now, right?
before, right, right.
Because the developers don't want to spend the time drafting the contract, and rightly so, because they draft so many of them, and we respect that. So they want to make sure it's a serious buyer. They show up with their cash in hand, and as soon as that cash is dropped off, the contract is sent out for signing an hour or two
And
later.
even before that, actually, let's just touch on this.
Yeah.
We're going to need a worksheet from you.
Yes.
So we're going to need a reservation form, a worksheet from you,
Yeah.
which kind of gives you details about yourself. We also ask for a driver's license, like a photo ID.
Yeah.
But then also lets us know what kind of units that you're interested in.
Exactly.
So it gives you your top 3 options.
Yes.
Anything else that's inside?
Great
that?
question. Top tier
Employment.
options. There's, we
Employment
need employment letter.
information.
We do, and these are just requirements that the federal government puts upon us that we
Right.
need to acquire. And then that worksheet is presented to the developer. The
your-
deposit shows up, and they take the information right off that worksheet, put it right on the contract.
Awesome. So you got your contract, you sign it, the DocuSign, and the question is, okay, well, Am I now tied to this property?
Exactly. So
what happens after that?
There were laws made. So as soon as you sign that contract, and as soon as the developer, you sign first, and as soon as the developer signs and you receive your copy and you acknowledge it, there's something called the 10-day cooling period. So or
due diligence
period.
Yeah.
So where you take that contract to a lawyer, Tristian would recommend to you, who's experienced in new construction, and they
very important that you get a pre-con
100%.
lawyer, a lawyer that has done this and knows what to look for in those agreements.
Exactly. We'll go through that in another show.
Sure. Yes.
But there are some details in there you want to make sure that the lawyer reviews.
Yep.
And of course we'll review the contract as well and make sure and to ensure that nothing's missed and ensure that the caps on the development charges are hard caps, that there's no little secret little things that they've tried to sneak in there, and no hidden administration fees, things like that.
Awesome.
Not that happens often, but it's things you got to be watching for and mindful of.
And so that's all during the 10-day due diligence period. And then throughout that time as well, we're going to be asking for a pre-approval. So you don't necessarily have to get a mortgage. When you get a pre-con, you don't have to have a mortgage ready to go right then and there, but you do need a pre-approval letter.
That's great. You need a letter from a tier 1 bank. In most cases, if you are going to try to go through a mortgage broker, some developers will allow it, some won't.
Right. Yep.
If there's any changes that you'd like made in the agreement,
at that time,
your lawyer will send, or the contact information of the developer's lawyer is included in the contract, and they'll communicate with the developer's lawyer with those changes. And then in most cases, if they're minor things, the developer will concede to those changes. But anything too major, the developer will just say, "I'm sorry, we're not making those changes." They're very polite about it.
Right. Fair enough. Are there anything else that I'm missing in regards to things that need to be in
during your due diligence?
No,
I think you've hit it on the head. I think you obviously you want to review the contract. You want to start the process on getting a pre-approval,
right?
And getting to know the lawyer, and the lawyer will put points together, and you want to get it in your hands of your lawyer as quickly as possible to review it, because that negotiation process sometimes takes a few
time.
days. Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah,
perfect. So once that's done, you're good to go.
Once that 10-day comes and passes, it's a firm deal. It's yours.
That's
yours.
Awesome, and that's amazing. So throughout that time, so after that, actually, I want to just touch on closing costs.
Yes.
So before we continue, before we wrap up, I should say, because we are pretty much done. You bought it, you're good to go, you're firm. Now you just got to wait for closing.
Yeah.
They're probably going to contact you.
4 years from now.
Right, 4 years, right? They're going to contact you, of course, in regards to
that process,
design and all that kind of decor and all that.
Colors, things like that. That happens once you're a couple of years in and it's well under construction.
Awesome. So now let's get to the point where you're closer to occupancy.
Yes.
What are the closing costs that you should be thinking of?
Great question. The big one, of course, is land transfer tax.
Land transfer tax is a major one.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger ones.
And just to touch on that, because there's two that you have to think of.
Yeah, so whether or not you're buying in the city or buying outside of the core of the city, you'll pay 2 different taxes.
Right. So if you're in Toronto, then you're going to be paying, municipal tax
and the provincial tax.
And provincial tax. If you're outside of Toronto, then you're just paying the provincial tax.
That's correct.
Awesome. And then also, for some people that don't know, HST applies in this situation.
There is. In most cases, the HST is included in the sticker price that you're going to see, and you will be able to apply for a rebate up to a maximum of $24,000. There is a formula for it.
Right.
So, and it all appreciation comes into play. So if the property is appreciated, it affects how much of a rebate you're going to get. It's very interesting how our federal government has devised this formula. But at the end of the day, you can claim up to $24,000. So it either has to be your principal residence, or you have to present a 1-year lease contract, no short-term rentals.
So you hear that, guys? If you're an investor and if you're looking to do this strategy,
in order to qualify for the rebate.
In order to qualify for the rebate that you get from the government, you have to make sure that you have a 1-year lease agreement in place.
Or you're moving into it.
Or you're moving into it if it's your principal residence.
That's it.
Awesome. And I know that there's development charges.
There are development charges, of course. So the development charges, we said park levies, there's gas line costs, all these little things, they add up. So there are these development charges. They'll put a cap on them just recently for one, depending on the size of your unit, will depend on the size of the cap development charge.
Right.
So it's on a 1-bedroom or a studio to 1-bedroom, 1+10, it's going to be anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000.
Right now.
Yeah,
things can change. This is summer 2022. This can change.
It can change very quickly.
So contact me if we're not around this time. Please contact me. I can let you know what the average is now.
2 bedrooms and up tend to be around $16,000 to $19,000.
Awesome. Perfect. Anything else in terms of closing costs that We missed
That's
out on?
really about it. There's sometimes some nominal administration fees. Developers will charge a few $100 here and there that aren't to just kind of normal due course. And those will be in the fine print of the document, and those will be highlighted by your lawyer during that due diligence period.
I just want to touch on one last thing. When you're getting into occupancy, that date comes in, you move in, you're not necessarily getting a mortgage right then and there. That's not when you apply for, you get the mortgage once you close on the property.
That's correct.
Exactly.
And that's a few months after that occupancy period.
Right. So that could be, I have even heard 6-8 months in some
It can be,
situations.
unfortunately.
Yeah, easily. So you could be living in there or renting it out. You don't have to necessarily have the mortgage ready to rock, but once closing comes, you have to have that mortgage in place.
And just to drop a little tidbit, there are developers that will close. They won't even have an occupancy period. They will just close.
Oh, interesting.
Which is great. So talk to Tristan, and he'll get you that information because I can get him that information.
Sounds like a plan.
Which is great. So which is really cool. So the idea is to get somebody in there and get a mortgage on that property. Everyone's like, ooh, mortgages? No, you want a mortgage on that property so you can get the tenant in there, which may already be there, paying down that mortgage. So every month, that principal pay back, you are paying yourself. That's awesome. And that's the key thing when owning investment real estate.
And just on average, for condos, and we could just wrap up here.
Yeah.
On average, do you know roughly what condos in the GTA go for? Like what's the appreciation?
A rental or
what's the appreciation on
average? Great question. We're seeing, like what you should see is anywhere from 5 to 8% appreciation.
And that's on a conservative side.
That's on a conservative side, yes. And we're always conservative.
Yes.
But you want to be conservative. You don't want to get that double-digit appreciation. That's where things get a little dangerous in terms of getting overheated, and that's when things have to either adjust quickly and downwards.
Right.
And so you want to see that apprieciation nice and steady around that 6 to 8% mark.
Anything else, man? What did we miss? Did we get everything,
man? All I have to say is you got to call this guy because honestly, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
And
Thanks
you
for
do a
spending the
phenomenal
time.
job with all your clients, and they're very lucky to have you as their realtor because I've only seen you steer them in the right direction. So congratulations.
That. Guys, that's it, man. That is Pre-Con 101. I hope you find this valuable. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, Clueless, ask Clunis. Have a great day.